All right. Thank you very much. This was a request for me to make a video for this problem. If y'all have any questions, make sure that y'all reach out to me and ask me if y'all have any problems that you want me to go over on video. Okay, so we have our rules. Jack tossed a coin 3 times. Which tree diagram shows all the possible outcomes of the coin landing heads up or tails up? So we read the word problem. Now we're going to cross off the R. Now we're going to underline the specific question. All right? The question's asking us, which tree diagram shows all the possible outcomes of the coin landing on heads up or tails up? Okay? So we underline the question. All right. Now we're going to go to labeling, L. All right. We're going to circle all the numbers. So a coin was tossed 3 times. Okay. Which tree diagram shows all, box all, the possible outcomes? Possible outcomes is a term that we've been going over of a coin landing heads up or tails up. So heads or tails, we'll box that. All right. That's our label. Now we're going to evaluate. We evaluate using our tree diagram. Now, I want y'all to know that tree diagram can be drawn horizontally, like they have here, or they can be drawn vertically. All right? So, let's evaluate. Now, it says that a coin is being tossed 3 times. So, we know that a coin has 2 possible outcomes. It could be either heads or it could be tails. All right? Now, if you flip a coin 3 times, that means that we have 2 possible outcomes, and the 2 possible outcomes are going to have a chance of occurring 3 times. So we have heads or tails. That's 2 possible outcomes when we flip the coin the first time. And then when we flip the coin the second time, it's the same 2 possible outcomes. It could be heads or tails. And if we flip it a third time, it's going to be the same number of possible outcomes. It could be heads or tails. So the first time, so I put a first here, second, third times that we run the trial or that we flip the coin, there's 2 possible outcomes every time. So 2 times 2 times 2 is equal to 8. There's 8 total possible outcomes. All right? Now I'm going to prove this to you by drawing a tree diagram. So we have heads. If we flip heads the first time, the second time we can get heads again, or we can get tails. If we flip and we get a tails the first time, we can then flip again, we get either heads or tails. So if I flip a coin the first time, I can get heads. The second time, I can get heads again. If I flip a coin, I get heads, I can get tails the second time. So this is the first trial. This is the second trial. Now let's go to our third trial. All right? Once again, we can get either heads or we can get tails. All right? For this one here, we can get heads or we can get tails. All right? Let's go here. Heads or tails. Let's go here. We can get heads or we can get tails. All right? So this will be the first flip. This level here will be the second flip, and this level here will be the third flip. All right, this is the level of our tree. So let's draw our sample space. So our sample space, we'll draw a curly bracket. We can get either heads, 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 H, H, H. We can get heads, heads, tails, which would be H, H, T. We can get heads, tails, heads. We can get heads, tails, tails. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's see if we get a tails first. We can get tails, heads, heads. Tails, heads, heads. We can get tails, heads, tails. All right. We could get tails, tails, heads. Or we could get tails, tails, tails. All right, the triple tails. All right, so how many total How many total outcomes do we have? It should be 8. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total outcomes. All right? And so the only answer choice that we have here, oh, let me scoot back a little bit. So the only answer choice that we have here that fits that, it would not be F, because if you look at F, F has heads, 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 and heads, heads, heads. It has this twice. So it can't be F. Let's look at G. G has tails, heads, heads, and then tails, heads, tails. But what if we draw heads first on our first flip? It doesn't have heads. Can't be G. All right? This one, this tree diagram, H, looks exactly like this one. Heads, 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 tails, heads, heads, tails, and then heads, tails, heads, heads, tails, heads, and then heads, tails, tails, heads, tails, tails. So, and then it does the same thing for tails. So the best possible solution so far is H. Let's look at J. J has heads, but it's missing tails. It's the exact opposite of G. So the answer, ladies and gentlemen, is H. All right, H is our answer. So I hope this video helps. Let me know if you have any questions.